I'm speaking with the founding managing director, Daniel Mintz. He's right here with us in TV Studio 1, as they call it, in the Congress Center at the World Economic Forum's annual meeting. Daniel, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm going to start by asking you to give me your assessment of where you see Asia in 2015. I know it's a broad, general question, but it'll help me understand what you think the growth potential is, and then I'll come to specific questions on your investment strategy for India.
Sure. Well, we take a regional perspective on Asia. We've got offices in India and also in China and throughout the region. And obviously we have the benefit in Asia of having just a higher overall growth rate than the rest of the world, and I think that will continue with all the ups and downs that you'll see. And I think the oil price, with what's happened recently, is a boon to Asia, and India in particular.
Right.
Is a big beneficiary of that. So there'll always be ups and downs, but I think Asia's got a great future ahead of it and lots of opportunities. Something that we've seen over the years is just as fast as the GDPs have grown in Asia, the amount of inter-regional trade and investment has grown much more than the GDPs, and I think that also will continue.
From where you sit, do you think India has turned the corner?
I think so, and I hope so. It's India's turn,
okay.
And I think it's a lot of challenges, but I think there's a lot of potential, and we certainly have invested, will continue to invest, are very excited about it.
What is your investment strategy in India?
Well, we, as a regional matter, we focus primarily on three vertical industry verticals. One is agribusiness and food, one is financial and business services, and the final one is renewable energy and environmental.
Right.
Each of them are very different, but all of them play on factors that are growing in India and around the region. Obviously, in the financial sector, you have tremendous under-penetration, particularly of the lower classes, that has to change. People
Yes.
are going to become participants in the formal financial sector, and I think that creates a lot of opportunities. Certainly on the renewables side, as your viewers know very well, India's got a lot going on,
Sure.
On the solar side, et cetera. And agribusiness and food, as we all know, India suffers from a lot of food being spoiled, and there's a lot of increased productivity that India has coming to it, that it needs to be self-sufficient, and in some places to be an exporter. And so along the supply chain, inputs, logistics, there's a lot of ways to play that, but I think in the food sector there are also a lot of opportunities in India. As fragmented as it can be, I think that will over time continue to you'll see more and more organized participants in the food sector.
Okay, I want to talk about specific opportunities in each one of these sectors. Financials. Are you currently invested in any financial players in India? Your website lists HDFC Bank, so that is public information. You say you no longer are invested, so I'm guessing you exited
Unfortunately.
that. Unfortunately, I know. I'm sure you're kicking yourself about that one.
Of course.
But what is your current exposure to the financial services space?
So we're an investor in KVB, the Southern Indian Bank.
Karur Vaishya Bank.
And we are also an investor in Quattro Global Services, which is a BPO business that's led by Raman Roy,
right,
of great fame in that sector.
Yeah. What's your outlook on the financial services business? Because it's been one of the best performing stories in the equity markets in India in the recent past. I'm curious to know what you think of where it can go from here.
First of all, we're very focused on the Indian financial services sector, and it's had a nice run in equities, but as you look at the sub-sector strategies and the opportunities, just about every one of them is under-penetrated, and there are opportunities, I think, for quite a while. I don't think it's a single year. We're investing over a multiple-year period, so we're not just making a play on the market index. And I think if you look at the lower-class sector, which has not been well-served, you look at microfinance, for example, you see that, and the rules have become formalized, which is a good thing. I think that creates a lot of opportunities to.
But you have just one investment in the space.
We more to come.
More to come?
More to come.
So were you waiting for something specifically before you put more money to work in financial services? Because many people might say much of the gains or many of the gains, at least in stock price, measurement, have already been had?
I think there's enough to go around, and you just have to choose your sectors and your partners well.
Okay.
I certainly don't think that's run its course.
So when you do look at a potential investment, will you be looking at a bank? Will you be looking at a non-banking financial company, a microfinance company? I mean, you could play the financial space in many different ways. Where do you think most of the growth is?
I think in the non-bank side, in particular types of strategies, I mentioned microfinance is one of them. There are a lot of opportunities, but I don't think you can isolate one sector and say that's the one. You might over a one-year period, but over a longer-term period, if you look at the penetration rates of things like insurance, savings accounts, et cetera, there's a lot there. Now, just because there's growth opportunities doesn't mean you're going to make money, right? You have to think about who you're investing with, what are the strategies,
sure,
what are the valuations you're paying. So I'm not suggesting that just because we know that there will be many more bank accounts, much more insurance payments, that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to make money. You have to choose well. And we're in a business, unlike a public stock player where you're in and out, you can have multiple investments. We typically really focus on a few investments to carry a theme. We're not really trying to diversify and have 8 or something like that.
Okay, but you have just one, so therefore I asked the question. You mentioned Quattro. You're also still invested in DM Healthcare and Wishware?
That's correct.
Okay, so healthcare is not one of the sectors that you spoke of in the early part of the interview. Is it just because in India you specifically think of it as a great opportunity, or is it that DM attracted you to the business?
Both, actually.
Both. Okay.
So as a strategic matter, we prioritize 3 sectors, but we always leave a bucket for our outstanding opportunities. This was one of them.
Okay, DM Healthcare.
Yes.
Okay. Are you looking at more investments in healthcare?
Not too much.
Why is that?
I'm saying that separate from what DM Healthcare is doing. It's a very pricey sector. So there are certain things we'll look at, but we're aware that our insight that India needs a lot more private sector healthcare, we're not alone in having that insight. So we're very fortunate in our opportunity to invest in DM Healthcare, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to keep doing more deals. If we see something, we'll do it, but it's not a mandate that we have to do. It's very. If you look at the valuations of that sector, they're very high.
Okay.
So.
Does your bucket of non-agri, non-financial services and non-renewable investments also include infrastructure? Because that's a space that India is starved of capital for.
So the short answer is yes, with asterisk. I think, as you know, that sector has not done so well in recent years, and there are reasons for that, and hopefully they're going to change, but we want to see that evidence. And so in many infrastructure businesses, the returns are not necessarily highly attractive. So we'll look at things typically that wouldn't be the largest infrastructure projects, might be a little more niche where you can see the higher returns. And we'll obviously take a very close look at who the people are who are paying and guaranteeing contracts, and you want to make sure that you're investing in a situation where you'll get your money back and then some profit. That hasn't always been the case in India's infrastructure sector.
It hasn't, and I think that's what plagues infrastructure even now.
But I mean, just to go back on that, there's no question that India is starved for it, and the people deserve better, and I hope they get it.
Okay. You don't have an investment in the renewable space in India, do you?
Oh, we do.
Which one?
Orient Green.
Orient Green. Okay. Well, what do you see, or how do you see the potential of renewable energy pan out in India, especially in a year when crude oil prices have dropped all the way to 40 and...
Well, remember that crude oil prices relate to transportation. They're not completely fungible, and I think you see a lot of activity, for example, in India's solar sector, where the prices have come down to a point where there are quite attractive economic prospects in that. So Yes, prices have come down, and certain renewable projects don't work with this kind of math, but some do.
So what is your expectation in terms of the kind of growth opportunity that renewables will provide you in India?
I'm going to punt on that and give that one to my partner who really focuses on that.
Okay.
That's not mine.
Okay. The other sector you outlined was agribusiness, and that's a tough one in India because
Yes.
there's no way to directly play that one. So have you found a different way to be able to participate in the agribusiness potential, or are you waiting till, that changes in India?
So the way we define agribusiness and what we've done has been all across the supply chain. So we look at inputs. We do in other countries look at land processing, and you look at logistics, things like packaging around it. So it's a pretty broad supply chain the way we define it. And certainly along that chain of value, in different places you see opportunities that are good. So you're right, in India we would not be looking to go and buy land for obvious reasons, but we might see opportunities, for example, in the dairy sector. We have an investment in a Chinese dairy, and because of that, it's a very high quality producer. We've seen a lot of opportunities in that sector in India. They tend to be smaller. It's growing fast. It's the world's largest dairy market by volume. But clearly the quality and the sophistication of the products have a long way to go. So we're looking at that as an example.
So how much money do you have deployed in India right now, ballpark?
Ballpark about $400 million.
Okay, your deal size typically, I was reading off your website again, is somewhere between 30 to 200 million per deal, right? So you have, 4 or 5 active investments right now in India? Are you looking, since you hope and think that India has turned the corner, are you looking to expand that number aggressively?
Yes. Aggressively. We are a cautious investor. We're investing over longer periods, but we are very much interested in expanding our portfolio.
And it would be in these 3 spaces that you've identified?
Primarily.
Just to go back to financials, in your conversation with me on email, you said one of the key triggers for growth you see, in the financial space could be change in banking regulations and the Basel III requirements. You want to talk us through what you think that will mean for the banking sector? Sure.
And here I'd take a broader view than just India. But there's no question that you've had this with Basel III and with a number of other regulations that came because of the great financial crisis, which is didn't touch India the way it hit other places. So other places you saw more dramatic reactions. What's happened is the cost of capital for banks for certain products, like small business loans, it's just not worth it for them, for many banks, to be in businesses that used to make the money, capital adjusted. And what that means is there's a void. And who walks into that void? Well, non-bank lenders is an example. So regionally, we've been very active investing in the non-bank lending sector because we think the relative competitive advantage of a high-quality, disciplined credit business versus a bank there are obviously benefits to being a bank, the low-cost deposits, but there are also a lot of constraints. And we think the balance is tipped so that there continue to be opportunities as Basel III is implemented. And the capital needs are broad, including from the small business sector. I think that does create opportunities, but always in this business, you got to really focus on people because the difference between an A-plus management and a B management is huge. So you really have to focus on your business model and your partners in every business, but particularly in financial services. So hopefully we'll choose well.
All right. So then the final question. We have a big budget exercise every year in India, which the government lays out, not just its finances, but also its intentions in terms of policy and reform. In about a month's time from now, Mr. Modi's government will be laying out its first full-fledged budget. You look in from the outside towards India. What are the few things that you would like to see the Indian government fix?
Well, it's not just the budget, it's also regulatory. Sure. But certainly there are both formal and informal impediments to investing, just in terms of the difficulties of doing business, transparency, concerns about regulatory change or issues at the state level. I don't think I'm saying anything controversial. That India's been tough for investors, and it raises the cost of capital for India. I don't think it serves India's people for foreign investors to be deterred. So whatever can be done to make it more transparent, more predictable, taxation obviously being an important one, I think will be to India's benefit and particularly to the people of India who deserve to have more people investing in their country alongside their domestic capital.
What will it take for a quantum leap in investments such as yours?
Well, we're well invested in India, so we're not the one who's been sitting back and saying we're not going to put money in India. And it's been a bad couple of years for a lot of investors. I mean, a lot of investors have really pulled out or back from India. We're not one of them. So I think it's a part of what we do and will continue to be. It may well grow, but we never pulled back.
All right, fair enough. We'll leave it there, Daniel. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And I hope you have enjoyed the rest of your stay here in Davos.
Thank you.